On a seemingly ordinary March morning in 2012, 15-year-old Sierra Mae LaMar prepared for school, blissfully unaware that her life was on the brink of a harrowing transformation. After sharing a warm goodbye with her mother, Marlene, Sierra embarked on her routine walk to the bus stop, a path she had traversed countless times before. However, in the serene town of Morgan Hill, California, an unimaginable tragedy lurked just moments away. Sierra Mae LaMar, born on October 19, 1996 in Fremont, California, was Marlene's second child, following her older sister Danielle by 6 years. Little did anyone know, this day would unravel the very fabric of their family. Known for her infectious laughter and cheerful demeanor, Sierra was often described by her teachers as the class clown, a girl who could light up a room without ever causing trouble. Friends and family remembered her as a confident young girl, someone who effortlessly radiated positivity and joy. This innate ability to uplift those around her was one of Sierra's most charming traits. From an early age, she had a passion for physical activities, particularly dancing. As she entered her teenage years, her enthusiasm led her to become a spirited member of her school's cheerleading team. Sierra's love for animated movies was another cherished facet of her childhood, often shared with her father during trips to the cinema. Life had not always been easy. Her parents divorced when she was still young, and shortly thereafter Marlene began a new relationship. A couple of years later, Sierra and her mother moved to Morgan Hill, nestled in the San Francisco Bay Area, to start fresh with Marlene's new partner. Meanwhile, Steve, Sierra's father, remained in Fremont, while Danielle pursued her studies in Sacramento. Like many girls her age, Sierra harbored mixed feelings about leaving her friends and the familiar life she had always known. The prospect of her mother living with a partner outside of marriage added to her reservations. Nonetheless, Sierra's vibrant personality and positivity allowed her to adapt to her new high school environment with relative ease. She quickly became a beloved member of the cheerleading team and forged new friendships, all while maintaining close ties with her old friends in Fremont, a mere hour's drive away. Despite her initial reluctance about the move and her mother's new relationship, Sierra, at 15, maintained a strong bond with Marlene, often engaging in open conversations with her. Additionally, she shared a special relationship with her older sister, frequently calling her to discuss school, friends, and even crushes. Just as Sierra was beginning to embrace her new life, an unforeseen event shattered her dreams and plunged her family into an agonizing nightmare. March 16, 2012, dawned like any other day. Sierra awoke, prepared for school, captured a cheerful selfie, and uploaded it to her online diary, a daily ritual she cherished. After posting her pictures, she said her customary goodbye to Marlene, embracing her in a warm hug and expressing her love before heading off to the nearby bus stop, a routine that felt comforting and safe. Later that day, as the hours ticked by, Marlene sent a series of text messages to Sierra, gently reminding her of the chores awaiting her after school. When Sierra failed to respond, Marlene assumed her daughter was simply preoccupied with her studies. However, as the clock struck 3:45 p.m., Marlene's concern grew. She dialed Sierra's number, desperate for reassurance, but was met with silence. It wasn't until 6 p.m. that the automated attendance system from the school delivered a chilling email to Marlene. It was in that moment of dawning realization that she understood. Sierra had never made it to school. Panic surged through Marlene as she grasped the gravity of the situation. Without hesitation, she called 911, reporting her daughter missing, fully aware that precious hours had slipped away since Sierra's disappearance. Those critical moments lost would haunt Marlene and the entire community as they plunged into a desperate search for the vibrant girl who had seemingly vanished into thin air. Upon receiving the initial report, the police turned their attention to the school bus surveillance footage, only to discover that Sierra Mae LaMar never boarded. This revelation led them to a chilling conclusion. Something sinister had transpired between her home and the bus stop. With security footage from previous days yielding no clues, the search began to expand throughout the area. Initially, the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office treated Sierra's case as a standard missing person investigation, operating under the assumption that there was no evidence of foul play. However, as the days dragged on, evidence began to surface that would shift the investigation's trajectory. On March 17th, a breakthrough occurred when Sierra's cell phone was unearthed near a road intersection in Morgan Hill, approximately 2 miles from her home. It appeared to have been discarded from a vehicle. The following day, A pink, juicy couture bag belonging to Sierra was found abandoned 2 intersections away, carelessly tossed by the roadside. Inside, neatly folded clothes told a story of normalcy amidst chaos. The bag contained a pair of jeans, a shirt, all of Sierra's important documents, and the $5 she had been given for lunch. Everything remained untouched, eerily pristine in the days following her disappearance. In response, a massive volunteer search unfolded. The rugged terrain surrounding Sierra's home and the bus stop was fraught with challenges. Fields, hills, reservoirs, forests, ravines, and dense brush painted a daunting landscape for search efforts. Authorities and volunteers worked tirelessly, day after day, determined to unearth any evidence that might illuminate Sierra's fate. During these grueling search efforts, approximately 150 items were uncovered, each potentially significant in piecing together the mystery. Among the findings was a box labeled handcuffs and used condoms, discovered by a volunteer about a mile from Sierra's bus stop. Yet it remained unclear whether this disturbing discovery had any connection to her disappearance. The area was notorious as a hangout spot for teenagers, who often congregated there to drink and engage in reckless behavior. On March 20th, Sierra's case was officially classified as a missing person under the category of abduction, suggesting she had been taken against her will. This classification elevated the urgency of the investigation. A forensic examination of Sierra's phone and personal computer yielded no useful leads, but investigators were adamant about accounting for the whereabouts of all registered sex offenders in the vicinity at the time of her disappearance. To their shock, one name on that list belonged to Sierra's own father. Steve LaMar had faced at least 10 counts of child molestation dating back to 2009, involving 3 of Sierra's friends, aged 8 to 9, during a sleepover at his home. He had pleaded guilty to 1 charge and served a year in jail. This dark chapter in his life was the reason Sierra had moved in with her mother, as he was legally prohibited from living alone with a minor. However, despite the alarming past, investigators quickly ruled Steve out as a suspect. Scrutiny of Sierra's family life revealed no indications that she might have run away voluntarily. Her disappearance cast a heavy shadow over the community, and she soon became known as everyone's daughter. As the police investigation unfolded, volunteers remained steadfast in their search efforts. On March 28th, a significant breakthrough occurred when DNA found on Sierra's jeans was matched to a man named Antolin Garcia-Torres, a 21-year-old who worked at a local supermarket and resided in a trailer park about 8 miles from Sierra's home. The investigation into Antolin Garcia-Torres revealed a disturbing pattern. Living with his pregnant girlfriend, their 18-month-old baby, and his mother, authorities uncovered that on 3 separate occasions, women had reported attempted abductions to the police. These incidents occurred in parking lots at the supermarket where Antolin was employed. One victim recounted a harrowing encounter where she fought back with a pocket knife, only to be overpowered as her assailant held the blade to her throat. Each woman managed to evade their attacker, thanks to their desperate screams or the presence of passers-by. However, none had identified Antolin as their assailant. During one of these attacks, he inadvertently dropped a stun gun. Forensic analysis later revealed that his fingerprints were present on the battery. Antolin's past was troubling as well, marred by a criminal record that included felony assault and a 2010 charge of sexual relations with a minor. This history prompted law enforcement to place him under round-the-clock surveillance. As the investigation deepened, police reviewed security footage from the trailer park where Antolin resided. They observed his red Volkswagen Jetta departing the area just 15 minutes before Sierra Mae LaMar left her home to head to the bus stop. The same vehicle was captured on surveillance footage near the spot where Sierra was last seen on March 16th. When police brought Antolin in for questioning, he maintained that after leaving his home on the day of Sierra's disappearance, he went fishing alone. His alibi, however, lacked any witnesses or corroborative evidence. The investigators pressed him directly, questioning how his DNA had been found on Sierra's belongings. Antolin's response was alarming. He claimed he often engaged in self-pleasure in his car and used tissues to clean up afterward, suggesting he might have inadvertently discarded one out of the window, which could have ended up in Sierra's bag. Yet this explanation was flawed. The police had not disclosed the specific type of sample from which the DNA was extracted, leading Antolin to unwittingly incriminate himself by assuming it was sexual in nature. Naturally, investigators were skeptical of his excuse. Several witnesses reported seeing a vehicle matching Antolin's description near the bus stop when Sierra was believed to have vanished. This new evidence prompted authorities to obtain a search warrant for Antolin's car on April 7th. During the search, a shocking find emerged. One of Sierra's hairs was discovered entangled in a rope in the trunk, alongside her fingerprints on the rear door handle. Meanwhile, police began employing cadaver dogs, intensifying their efforts to locate Sierra and any evidence that could shed light on her fate. Following these unsettling discoveries in Antolin's vehicle and 2 months of rigorous surveillance, the police arrested him on May 21, 2012, charging him with the abduction and suspected murder of Sierra Lamar. The case captured national attention, even featuring on an episode of America's Most Wanted, marking 1 year since Sierra's disappearance. In an outpouring of community support, the residents of Morgan Hill came together to honor Sierra on March 16, 2013. They released helium balloons in her favorite colors, each adorned with ribbons and heartfelt messages of hope and love. Nearly a year later, on February 11, 2014, Antolin was formally charged, but he pleaded not guilty. On Saturday, March 14, 2015, 3 years after Sierra's tragic disappearance, her family faced an agonizing decision, grappling with the weight of loss and the pursuit of justice. Antolin Garcia-Torres faced formal charges, his plea of not guilty echoing through the courtroom. On Saturday, March 14, 2015, 3 long years after the mysterious disappearance of Sierra Mae LaMar, her family found themselves at a crossroads, grappling with an unimaginable decision. The search for Sierra Mae LaMar had officially ended, but not without years of relentless effort. Volunteers had gathered week after week, driven by hope, determined to recover her body or any remains. Their dedication led to the longest ongoing search of its kind in the United States. In September 2015, news broke that the trial for Sierra's case was set to commence on April 25th of the following year. However, unforeseen delays pushed the start date to January 30th, 2017. Right from the beginning, the prosecutor cautioned the jury about a possible defense argument suggesting that Sierra had voluntarily run away from home. With no body, no murder weapon, and no key witness, the prosecution's case heavily relied on forensic evidence, DNA samples, and circumstantial facts. The prosecutor painted a harrowing picture for the jury, suggesting that Sierra had been bound, dragged, and ultimately placed in the trunk of Antolin Garcia-Torres' car. A police officer had noted a strong odor of urine emanating from Sierra's jeans, which were discovered less than 4 miles from her bus stop. The chilling details surrounding the clothing indicated that the young girl's lifeless body was likely found naked. The prosecutor emphasized that the condition of the clothing, dirtied with soil, supported the theory that she had been dragged. Compellingly, he also revealed that during initial questioning, Antolin had voluntarily disclosed information about his sexual habits, despite authorities never mentioning the specific DNA evidence found on Sierra's belongings. Mae LaMar, Sierra's mother, took the stand, her voice trembling as she recounted her relationship with her daughter. She vividly recalled the morning of March 16th, when they exchanged a kiss and an "I love you" before parting ways. With a heavy heart, she confirmed that the clothing and items found on the roadside belonged to Sierra. Next to testify was Antolin's ex-girlfriend, who by the time of the trial had officially severed ties with the accused. Her testimony stretched for about 90 minutes, although she struggled to recall specifics about the morning Sierra vanished. Under cross-examination, inconsistencies in her accounts regarding Antolin's whereabouts emerged, casting doubt on her reliability. She ultimately admitted to fabricating parts of her grand jury testimony, particularly regarding Antolin's unique method of folding and half-rolling his pants. This detail was significant, as it linked directly to how Sierra's pants were found in her backpack alongside her other clothing. Yet she confessed to the jury that she had no way of knowing how Antolin folded his pants since he never did the laundry or put away clothes. Another critical piece of evidence presented by the prosecution was a purchase Antolin had allegedly made prior to Sierra's disappearance. Records from a supermarket membership card indicated that he bought a turkey baster, a tool typically used for injecting sauce into meat or removing excess fat, as well as a jug of bleach. These items raised suspicions, as they could be used to eliminate DNA evidence after a sexual assault. Tragically, authorities were unable to recover any of these items from Antolin's car or residence. When questioned about this by the prosecutor, his ex-girlfriend admitted she knew nothing about it. However, she pointed out that Antolin rarely shopped for groceries alone, especially not at midnight, which was when this purchase had been recorded. She noted that if he had indeed gone shopping, he would have mentioned buying household items. Moreover, she highlighted that shortly after Sierra's disappearance, the atmosphere around them shifted dramatically, filled with unease and suspicion as the community grappled with the tragedy that had unfolded. The trial unveiled crucial evidence, particularly concerning the discovery of Sierra's pants nestled within her backpack, alongside the remnants of her clothing. A witness, however, admitted to the jury that she could not ascertain how Antolin folded his pants, as he had never taken responsibility for laundry or putting away clothes. Among the striking evidence presented by the prosecution was an unsettling purchase attributed to Antolin prior to Sierra's disappearance. Through supermarket membership card records, it was revealed that he had acquired a turkey baster, a tool notorious for injecting flavor into meat or extracting excess fat, along with a jug of bleach, items that could be used to obliterate DNA evidence after a heinous act. Tragically, investigators were unable to recover these incriminating items from Antolin's car or residence. During the trial, the prosecutor confronted Antolin's ex-girlfriend about the matter. She testified that she had no knowledge of the purchase, but pointed out that Antolin rarely shopped alone, especially at midnight, the time stamped on the purchase receipt. She remarked that had he indeed gone grocery shopping, he would have mentioned buying household items. In the aftermath of Sierra's disappearance, she recalled conversations where Antolin's behavior became increasingly erratic. Notably, she expressed concerns over his propensity for isolation and secrecy, underscoring a chilling atmosphere surrounding the case. As the investigation unfolded, a witness recalled a crucial detail regarding the midnight purchase. She stated emphatically that her ex-partner would have mentioned buying household items if he had indeed made such a purchase. Furthermore, she highlighted the unsettling fact that this revelation came just shortly after the mysterious disappearance of Sierra Mae LaMar. In a chilling turn of events, it was revealed that Antolin Garcia-Torres, along with 2 friends, had embarked on a snowboarding trip to Fresno. During this escapade, Antolin indulged in cannabis, raising questions about the substances involved in the case. A turkey baster found at the scene could potentially have been used as a tool for creating concentrated cannabis. As the trial proceeded, Antolin's lawyers laid out their defense, asserting that the lack of Sierra Mae LaMar's body was a significant factor in their claim of his innocence. They pointed out inconsistencies, noting that Sierra's hair, which was discovered in Antolin's car, had not been present in earlier photographs, raising doubts about the evidence. The defense went further, suggesting to the jury that a driver of a brown car seen in the vicinity of Sierra's disappearance in March 2012 could very well be the actual perpetrator. However, the court had barred the defense from mentioning a prior child molestation conviction that Sierra's father had served, a detail that could have influenced perceptions of the family dynamics. In a dramatic twist, court documents presented by Antolin's lawyer argued for a different narrative. They claimed Sierra had run away from a fractured home life, expressing struggles at school. The defense painted a picture of a young girl who had moved to Morgan Hill less than a year before her disappearance, discontent and unhappy in her new environment. According to the defense, Sierra had confided in a friend about her plans to escape, even going so far as to show her a suitcase filled with clothes. Friends from her former life in Fremont testified, sharing their concerns. They confirmed that Sierra was indeed unhappy with the move, but also expressed skepticism that she would have chosen to run away. On the day she vanished, her friend Shannon recounted a text message from Sierra filled with excitement about returning to her hometown and mentioning her desire to take ecstasy, a narcotic. The defense contended that Sierra had become entangled with individuals involved in criminal activities, possibly leading to her abduction by drug traffickers. However, Sierra's friends refuted these claims, aligning instead with the prosecution's view that her actions were typical of a rebellious teenager. In an effort to dismantle the defense's portrayal of coincidence, the prosecutor called upon Jeanette Kinner, a woman who had connections in Antolin's social circles. Jeanette confirmed that she had known at least one teenager who attended school with Sierra, though she only recognized the connection after Sierra's mysterious disappearance. The defense, meanwhile, sought to counter the prosecution's assertions about Antolin's troubling history, which included attempted kidnappings of 3 women from supermarket parking lots in 2009. The defense's central argument hinged on the fact that none of those women could identify Antolin in a lineup, casting further doubt on the prosecution's narrative. As the courtroom drama unfolded, Antolin's older sister took the stand, recounting their tumultuous childhood. She revealed the harrowing truth of their upbringing, describing how they had often been left alone as their father, a convicted alcoholic, was in prison. She disclosed the abuse they had suffered, detailing how their father had violently mistreated their mother and had sexually abused her from the age of 5 until she was 15. When it came to the DNA evidence presented by the prosecution, the defense claimed that proper procedures had not been followed in handling the samples. They asserted that the bag containing Sierra's clothes had been contaminated, which they argued compromised the genetic analysis. Despite these allegations, the prosecution stood firm, emphasizing that the evidence had been meticulously collected and preserved, presenting a stark contrast to the defense's claims and adding another layer of complexity to this haunting case. As the trial unfolded, the jury listened intently to the harrowing testimony of Sierra's mother, Marlene. She revealed a dark family history, describing a household where violence prevailed. Antolin, she claimed, had not only been a witness to traumatic events, but had also perpetrated acts of abuse against her daughter from the tender age of 5 until she reached 15. Concerning the DNA evidence presented, the defense argued vehemently that proper protocols had been neglected, asserting that the bag containing Sierra's clothes had been compromised, thus tainting the genetic profile analysis. Yet the prosecution stood firm, countering that the evidence had been meticulously collected and preserved, insisting that justice for Sierra Mae LaMar must prevail. In a haunting silence, Antolin Garcia-Torres chose not to testify. On May 9, 2017, more than 5 years after Sierra Mae LaMar's tragic disappearance, the jury, after a 13-week trial, entered a state of deliberation. For about a day and a half, they weighed the evidence before finally notifying the judge that they had reached a unanimous verdict. With the gavel's echo still resonating in the courtroom, Antolin Garcia-Torres, then just 26 years old, was found guilty of the kidnapping and murder of Sierra Mae LaMar. In a chilling twist, he was also convicted on 3 counts of attempted kidnapping stemming from a series of carjackings that had occurred in 2009. The judge's sentence was severe: life in prison without the possibility of parole. The prosecution had successfully argued that sexual gratification was a primary motive behind Antolin's horrific acts, compelling the court to mandate that he register as a sex offender. In a desperate bid for a second chance, Antolin's defense attorney sought to secure a new trial in November 2017. The argument hinged on the presiding judge's potential bias against him. However, this petition was swiftly denied by a judge in San Francisco. Years later, in December 2020, Antolin remained defiant, refusing to divulge any information about Sierra Mae LaMar's fate. A journalist's handwritten letter posed 4 questions to him, yet he only chose to respond to one: his assertion of innocence regarding her disappearance and alleged murder. The LaMar family, shattered by grief, has never held a funeral for Sierra. They believe that without her body to lay to rest, any ceremony would be devoid of meaning. In 2022, marking the somber 10th anniversary of her disappearance, a gathering of volunteers and Sierra's family took place, an intimate moment to remember the vibrant teenager they lost. Despite the heartache and an unfulfilled longing to recover her remains for closure, Sierra's family has chosen to focus on the joy she brought into their lives, cherishing the happy memories they created together. Thank you for joining us on this journey through tragedy and resilience. You've been listening to Unreal True Crime. If the mysteries of the world intrigue you, explore our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we delve into the gripping true crime stories from Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.